I'd like to welcome everybody out to the October 2nd, 2023 meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight and joining us on YouTube. Does any member of council have a conflict of interest with anything in regards to the agenda tonight? If so, please state this time. Mr. Borman?
No, sir.
Mr. Phillips?
No, sir.
Mr. Corbett?
No, sir.
Mr. Hargreaves?
No, sir.
All righty. Amendment and approval of the draft agenda. Guys, we'll be needing to add to our agenda for new business. Well, number 8, the Twin Lakes treatment information. Our administrator will have that for us. Does anyone have anything else that needs to be amended?
I have
Go
one.
ahead, sir.
I'd like to take number 5, new business, reschedule the November 6th meeting, council meeting, make that number 1.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No.
All right, there's nothing further. Do I have a motion to approve this agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. General council discussions. Any member of council have anything in regards here?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to just remind everybody that November 11th is Veterans Day. Town of Sunset Beach and the Committee to Honor American Veterans will co-host a Veterans Day ceremony at the Veterans Memorial in Sunset Beach Town Park on Saturday, November 11th at 1 p.m. Everybody's invited to come out and bring your own chairs. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, let me just, I attended last Wednesday the Brunswick County Shoreline Protection Consortium. John and I are members on that committee, which deals with all the beach communities in Brunswick County and deals with projects and issues regarding beach communities. We gave a report as usual on dredging. As we told them very quickly, I think we've completed our relocation of shellfish, and that's what's good, from Mary's Creek, Turtles Creek, and the Finger Canals. In October, we're going to be dredging Mary's and Turtles Creek. In November, begin dredging the feeder canals, and hopefully that will conclude this dredging project, which would be wonderful. We're also updating our dredging project grant application to the state to take advantage of new funding. And the new state funding is, instead of 66% for the state share, now it's 75% for the state's share. And then the local share is only 25% instead of 33% like it was before. So we can take advantage of this, hopefully, and save some money. That'd be great. We also always talk about, at the consortium, we talk about wind energy. And officially, we've got now the number of miles offshore that the Carolina Long Bay Wind Development, which is offshore from Bald Head Island, it'll be 22 miles. It'll begin 22 miles offshore from Bald Head Island. So it'll be something we will not see from here. That's for sure. Testing, they completed their ocean testing in the floor of the area there that they want to put the windmills on. That's been completed in 2024. They're going to put out 4 weather buoys, and they're going to have that out for a year to check the weather, check the winds and everything else in that area. The next meeting coming up in 2 months, we're going to have an in-depth report from Total Energies. There's 2 companies that are dealing with the Carolina Long Bay wind development area. One's Duke Energy, one is the Total Energies. We're going to have a report from Total Energies at the next meeting on exactly what they're going to be doing moving forward. So that should be interesting. Also at the Shoreline Protection, Representative Eiler was there, and he passed out a summary of the budget, the state budget that was just passed. And what I'm going to do is just, I have that for the people up here, and we'll just pass it down to, here you go. And then I'll give some to Katie. If anybody wants this, pick them up from Katie's table. That would be great. And let me do a quick update, if you would, Mr. Mayor, on the Beach Parking Committee. We didn't do anything at the last meeting. And the committee has moved now through phase 1. And phase 1 dealt with background information, supportive information, learning. And we've been through that and got through that. We've gone to step 2. And step 2, was the completion of a vision statement, And I don't know how many of you know what vision statements are, but certainly a vision statement is what the committee basically desires to achieve in what they're doing in studying beach parking. What do they want to do? What do they want to achieve? And that's what we've been working on in step 2, and we have finished that. And and it's sort of some other words you can use. It's sort of the goals of the committee, sort of the guardrails to keep us on track type of thing. And it's focused on just basically on what we need to get done. Let me read you the vision statement, and I have copies up here also that pass out to the people up here, and then we can put some on the table if anybody wants this. The vision of the Sunset Beach Island Parking Committee is to recommend to Town Council an improved plan to effectively manage parking on the island of Sunset Beach. We have parking now. There's parking going on. Our goal is to improve that parking. The committee will accomplish this by ensuring clearly designated public parking. The key thing, one of the big weaknesses over there has been non-designated parking, meaning knowing where a parking space is and parking in a parking space. While taking into account property owners' concerns on the island, the distribution of parking on the island, island parking capacity, and the potential need for paid parking. So that's a pretty big statement. But again, we want to better effectively manage. We want to designate parking. And you're going to take into account, obviously, the people who live there, the distribution of parking. Hopefully, you can spread it on the island a little bit. It would be nice, not only in the center of the island. Parking capacity. And with all the new homes and development in this area, we got to think of the number of people that are going to be calling Sunset Beach their beach, just like we do, and the potential need for paid parking. So I'll pass this up here. There's some extra ones if anybody wants those. And now, when that is complete now, so now we go into our final phase. And phase 3 of the parking study is to solve the issues, all the issues that need to be addressed when you're dealing with public parking on the island. And everybody here who goes to the island certainly can come up with an issue or two that maybe they see as a problem over there. And how do we designate parking as we move on? What streets should be open to parking, for example, handicap parking, working with the post office to see if we can put together a better delivery system over there, and that would be organizing mailboxes a little better. And so that's just an idea of some of the things we can possibly do. But there's a lot more, and we have work to do, and now we're going to move forward pretty quick. We're meeting twice a month, and so it's coming fast and furious now, studying, going over there all the time, working with committee members. So it's been pretty exciting. Charlie and I would like to thank everyone for their patience. I receive calls and I receive emails. Why isn't this done already? But I'd like to thank everyone for their patience, and this committee has moved forward in addressing what has become in this community over the years a very, very difficult topic. So we'll be moving on, and I thank you for the time to update everybody on it.
Y'all guys got anything?
Thank you.
Hey,
No, sir.
Okay.
All right. There's nothing else. Let's move on. Public comments on agenda items only. Does anyone have anything in regards to anything on the agenda tonight they'd like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Mary Hughes. I live at 513 Lakeshore Drive. I do want to address the Twin Lakes, but I thought maybe I'd wait to hear what Lisa has to say about the plan for them before I read my statement, if that's okay. Okay.
Anyone else? All right. Not, let's move on. Consent agenda. September the 5th, 2023, first regular meeting minutes. Fire Department, August 2023 report. Building Inspections Department, 2023 report. Planning Department, 2023 August report. Public Works Department, August 2023 report. Finance Department, August 2023 report. And the Police Department, August 2023 report. Does any member of council got any questions or comments on anything there?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
They were great.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Presentation, Sunset on Sunset update. Ms. Karen Joseph, you have the floor, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to once again give you a preview of this year's Sunset at Sunset Festival. The weather gurus say everything will be excellent on Saturday. Those of you who are believers and those of you who are not, please light candles or anything else that will give us good weather, because I can't go through another cancellation. I will tell you that a great deal of work and effort have gone into preparing for the festival. Changing our location last year became a challenge, and unfortunately, we cannot have the same number of vendors that we used to have because we just don't have the space. If you look at the map that you were given, you can see that virtually every square inch of level land is being used so that we can have the greatest number of vendors possible. And Mary Hughes, who just happened to be up here, spent many hours, I can tell you, laying out the map and trying to squeeze in as many vendors as we could get. We have 104 vendors. We have 10 food vendors, 10 nonprofit vendors. The Sea and Sand Band and the Jan Michael Fields Band will provide music all day long. There will be 3 buses running all day, starting at 6 a.m., providing transportation to the park from 3 parking areas across town. People will be able to park here at Town Hall, at Seaside United Methodist Church, and at the Convention Center parking lot in Sea Trail. And as I said, the buses will just be continually going around, picking people up and bringing them over. I can tell you that word continues to spread about our festival. And in fact, today I got 3 phone calls from vendors who just learned about us and wanted to come on Saturday. And unfortunately, I had to tell them that we have a waiting list, but here's what they should do for next year. I hope that you saw our full-page ad in the Beacon. We felt it was important to thank the many businesses who are supporting us and being sponsors. And one of my committee members, Mike Bowman, the man did an amazing job and got just shy of $10,000 in sponsors. And that is more than we have ever had. And we felt it was important to thank them in the newspaper. And finally, I want to thank our town administrator for her support of the festival. I know that all of the town employees will be on hand Saturday. I hope that they have a good time, along with working with us. And our public works staff will also be taking on extra responsibilities this week. So that is a rundown of what we have been working towards since February. And happy to answer any questions that you might have. That map, by the way, will be back to back, and it will be on all the buses, and it will be at the welcome tent, because a lot of people come because there are certain vendors they want to see, and because we have a whole new layout, we didn't want them to get aggravated, so they'll get a map and they'll find their favorite vendor.
Just for clarity, there's no public parking in and around the park. Is that correct? That
Right.
will all be in the
Right.
3 parking lots.
I mean, historically, when we were at the planetarium, people parked from the planetarium all the way down to the roundabout. I expect some people will park from the roundabout all the way back up. But if they're smart, they will go to a parking lot and get on the bus. And we'll be monitoring the buses to make sure that there's no problem with that. And, the bus drivers will have to take a break every now and again, and I can't drive a bus. So,
You do everything else, come on.
well,
We appreciate all the hard work the committee has done,
thank
the
you.
planning, organizing, making this happen, and the support the town has provided to the committee for this event. I imagine we all work very hard, but have a lot of fun in the whole process on Saturday. So thank you
Right.
very much.
Well, thank you, John.
We second
And
that.
I look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday. That's an omen. Thank you, Pete. Thank you. Yeah, I wish. I wish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our town administrator report, Miss Anglin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just continuing on what Ms. Karen said, there is public parking around the park area, and those areas are Island Breeze, the second parking lot, not the parking lot up against the building, the Old Bridge Historical Society, under the Man Seagore Bridge, the marked lots on the corner of Sunset Shoreline Drive West and Clubhouse Road, which is the Riptide Sales Center, and parking along Sunset Boulevard North, Shoreline Drive West, and Shoreline Drive East. And we ask that in the right-of-way parking, you do diagonal parking. In addition to the 3 off-site parking areas. Also going along with Sunset at Sunset, for the 60th anniversary celebration that we did back in March, in conjunction with that, we did a photo contest, and those top 12 winning photos have been taken and made into a calendar, and they are for sale at Town Hall, and they will be for sale at the Sunset at Sunset in the town tent. The only other thing I have, 2 other things. The construction for the walkways has started. They're on 9th Street now. They plan to go to 4th Street after that. Then 33, 36, 38. Those could change. As you will remember, we're waiting on the approval of 3 grant requests to do 29, 37, 33rd. So hopefully we'll get that grant money and we'll get all 8 of these done. But in the meantime, the 5 are going on. And the last thing I have is that the recycling application deadline was actually Saturday, but never fear, we are still accepting all of your money and your recycling applications. And we will continue to process those as long as money comes in. That's all I got.
Anybody got any questions for town administrator? Not. Any member of staff is finished, they're welcome to leave. At least some of you have nothing left. You're welcome to go home. Appreciate you. All right, moving on to our old business, the Govo's contract for short-term rental management. Ms. Nichols, you have the floor here.
So at the last meeting, we had a presentation from the GovOS for the short-term rental management. This was a solution that they presented to us to gain compliance and give us an idea of where we stand with the amount of rentals that we have and making sure that everybody's paying and that we're where we need to be and that we're not missing out on any of the revenue. There was a question of a multi-year contract. I had gone through that process with them to see what that would look like. There was not that much of a price difference, but we would be locked in for 3 years. And so what I presented to you is the 1-year contract that they have worked up for us. And this is a full encompassed, start to finish. They completely manage. So they'll have the registrations for every single rental property in the town, and the payment, and we'll be able to monitor through that way, plus the identification of the property. So this is an all-inclusive contract for that. The one thing I will say about this is that it does have a costly price tag, but in order to do what this will do, we would have to hire somebody full-time to just do this. So that would be where I would see the benefit coming in. And then at the end of a year, if it doesn't work out, we do not have to continue. If it looks like it's not gaining it or doing anything beneficial to us, we're not gaining anything from it, it didn't pay for itself, we do not have to continue at the end of the 1 year with a 1-year contract. Are there any questions specifically on this?
Tara, where will the money come to pay for this?
Accommodation tax. So the Fund 21. This would not be paid by the taxpayer money.
You said this would be all? This would be all the short-term rentals? Does that include the ones that are handled by rental companies?
Yes. So everybody would go through this. And so they have like for the local rental companies, there would be like a bulk listing in there where they don't have to log in for every single property. They would have a login with every property listed and be able to go through it that way. But it would be reported for each individual property. And I did call Bald Head Island and talk to Zachary Hewitt, who's their finance director and has been working with them they just renewed, I believe a couple months ago for their 2nd year. And he said that their revenue has increased. It did cover. He didn't have specific numbers of how much their revenue increased. But what he told me was that they've actually been slowly losing the number of rentals. So if they hadn't gained compliance and found new ones, their accommodation tax this last year would have decreased.
And that's what we're saying, our accommodation tax.
They
is
have
moving.
people moving there, so that aren't renting. And so they actually lost some rentals, but because they gained compliance, they actually increased their revenue.
Do we have somebody on our staff that's trained to work with this? Or does
This includes training for somebody to do this
and
in the contract.
how many of our people will be trained?
How many of our people? Yeah, at least 2.
Just two. And this database that they have, will that be someplace online where anybody can look at it to see who's registered as a short-term rental in Sunset Beach?
So I know that typically everything's pretty transparent and public record, but short-term rental addresses and the people are protected. It's not a public record.
So if somebody thinks there's a new short-term rental,
They can alert us,
they
but I
have
cannot
to,
tell them.
They have to report it to the town and then
We can't tell them,
but you will check it out.
but we can check it out.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, would you pass that name onto the company?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
I'll have access to it and be able to see if there is somebody renting at that property or if they're actually reporting or not reporting. It's just that you can't release a report of who is renting and who's not.
That makes sense.
But I can go in and look and see. Or the other employee that's doing it as well.
So how do all these short-term rentals register to be put in the database?
So there'll be a registration form that we will work with GovOS to create, and it'll be online. through the portal.
And sort of the enforcement aspect, if they
The-
choose not to.
The enforcement aspect would be through, so they actually will send out letters and emails or whatever information we do have. They will send out notifications that we haven't gotten your registration. We need you to sign up. Like there won't be any penalty, so to say, like a monetary penalty, other than you'll get a lot of letters. So.
And
And we can do an audit. So if somebody doesn't comply, we can go back and audit their records.
I mean, that would be a issue with them paying their taxes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if they don't register, then that means that they're not paying.
Okay.
Alright.
Yes.
The number of the 637 that they report here as the short-term rental number, how much of that is from the local companies? And so of this
I don't
637, how much is
so
stuff
I
that
don't
we already
have
know about?
I don't know what their number is. That is, they did a scan through of all the listings and whatever information some of the information that I gave them of what we have, and they came up with that number. My assumption is it's probably higher than that because of like the property managers that have multiple properties. That's just a preliminary number for them to base their fee off of.
But I would,
And so once we pay them, because they're not going to do a lot of work up front without getting
no, I
paid.
understand. Yeah.
Once we pay them, then they'll go through and do a more comprehensive through everything, contact the property managers and things like that, getting the information to get a better idea, to build the database.
But I assume now that with the local rental companies, the Sunset Properties, Sloan, they are paying their taxes, I assume.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that like Sunset Properties or any of them are the issue.
So
It's
So,
just that
what
we
we're
have to
really
pull it
after
all
is-
together. It's not necessarily that those property managers are doing anything wrong, but we have to have it all in one platform.
No, I understand, but I mean that what we expect to be the benefit here is for the companies that are not part of the local rental.
Right. So it's
The
probably it's
local
more
rental
individual properties. They may even not know about the tax. I mean, if it's something that they haven't done before and they're
Yeah.
just doing it to friends and family, if they do it over a certain amount of days, then they have to pay the tax. They may not know. So it may be an education outreach as well.
Okay. No, I was curious whether we knew how much of that 637 was actually stuff that we already know exists already.
So part of it is Airbnb and VRBO. I'm probably 90% positive this number's higher than of what we're already collecting from, because Airbnb and VRBO will not release what properties they have
Right,
or even the number of properties they have.
sure.
So this will they can go, part of their sweep was Airbnb, VRBO, Avalara, all of those. So that was part of it. But like I said, they didn't go in depth into all of the different platforms. This was just something to give them a base to give us what their
Right.
cost would be. And so the local ones are probably what's going to bring it up over that 637.
Based on the
And I'll be
accommodation,
able to reconcile and see, is Airbnb paying what they're supposed to? Is VRBO paying what they're supposed to?
right. Based on the accommodation tax numbers from last year, this represents about 5% of that, right? The fee that they want to charge is about 5% of what our current.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
So the fee here, the 45,000 that
Yeah.
they want, that represents about 5% of our current accommodations tax from last year.
Yes. Well, so this, and it also, you have to bring in the beach erosion fund into it as well. It's the 5% that we bring in, that we keep in the town, was 800,000 plus 500,000. So it was like 1.3 million.
Okay.
So
Oh, so it's less than 5%. Okay.
Yeah.
The fee is, looks like it's due next week, 13th, if we sign the contract. Do we pay it all up front?
We do pay up front.
Okay.
Because they'll start building the database and I can't think of the name of what it would be of the dashboard is what they're going to start building, so that we'll start getting that information. It'll be quite a bit of work from staff as well, but
The paperwork you provided says that they will provide us with a gateway for payments to be made,
yeah, so that
and that their charge is $1 per ACH transaction.
So the ACH transactions, the way that we have it set up right now, if you pay by ACH up to 5,000, the town is paying that. It turns out right now like $25 a month, because it's per transaction. It's not per total fee. But the 3%, if they use credit cards, is passed on to the customer.
Okay, so our fees will be above 45,000 over the course of the year,
Yeah.
because everybody who is in this system,
They can
every-
still send in checks.
okay,
We don't have a lot of participation for the online payment now. And so it'll be a manual entry. This is just something that we can offer to the customer. So we will, when we get the payment, we'll have to manually enter it in. There was not a lot of participation in the online payment that we have now for accommodation tax.
that's all the questions I have.
Yeah.
We tried this once several years ago, it didn't quite work.
Yeah, there was no
This one-
follow through
This
from the
one seems
company.
to be a much more comprehensive, capable
Mhm.
way of doing it, and hopefully they have a better web crawler to go out and get all the
Yeah.
companies. Thank you.
What's pleasure, council, in regards to this?
I'll make a motion that we approve the one-year term contract with GovOS.
Do I have a second?
1 year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stay right there. Moving on now to our new business. Just still stay right there because this ain't gonna take
Okay.
John, you brought up about the rescheduling of the November 6th meeting, which was number 5, so we're gonna pull it out.
Yeah.
It was just as far as rescheduling the November 6th, 2023 record scheduled meeting, moving it to November the 14th at 7 p.m. What's the pleasure of council here? Does anyone have a scheduling conflict on that as far as moving this?
No, sir.
No.
I make a
have-
motion that we
Go ahead.
reschedule the November 6th meeting to November 14th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
No more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on, number 2, Sunset Beach Community Center application and fee schedule. Ms. Tara, go ahead with this. Excuse me.
So I have gone through multiple towns, community centers, applications, and compiled some of it together in this document. I know it seems like a long document, but I have worked with other towns that have community centers, and there always ends up an issue arising. So this, I know, covers pretty much all of the issues that I've seen in other places. This is open for discussion of if you've gone through this. I'm not really sure what pieces council may want to look at in this. So we set it up with having a $100 deposit, which there's a checklist at the back. And if everything is good on the checklist, within 2 weeks, the person that's renting will get their deposit back. For town residents, nonprofits, or staff, we did a $25 an hour with a 4-hour minimum, or $175 a day. Yes.
How are we defining town residents and out-of-town residents?
I mean, if you own
What-
property in Sunset Beach and pay taxes,
Okay, well, that's,
or if you're a renter and you live in Sunset
rented
Beach.
there. but out-of-town property owners count as,
They pay tax in Sunset Beach.
Yep.
So,
as long as we all understand that.
yeah.
Okay.
And then the rental fee with alcohol, there's obviously added liability with alcohol would be $50 an hour with a 4-hour minimum or $300 a day. And then the out of town residence is basically double that. It's still a relatively low fee with the same $100 deposit. And then there is one change that we wanted to put on here with the officer fee. We're going to go with the officer fee not paid directly from the vendor. It'll be paid through the town and use our fee schedule. So the fee schedule for the officer, I think, is $65. Is that right? And then, so that would be paid through the town instead of directly from the vendor.
Okay.
It removes a piece of that. Every town does it different.
And
So that is one change before we even move forward that I wanted to mention.
okay. And
But that's already in the fee schedule
that's in the fee schedule, but just for people's
For
information.
event fees.
Per hour.
It is, yeah,
Hour
on-site
fee,
police
yep.
officer.
65 with car. Yep.
65 per hour.
65 per hour includes police car sitting there. So yeah.
Okay, so a 4-hour event with alcohol served will require 65 times 4, whatever that is,
Yes.
$260 also is the cost to do that. What is there a difference? It's hided out in here that if it's a BYO function, do they still
So
have to have a
that
police
all
officer?
that is for licensing. So
Licensing.
if you have if you are like serving it, I don't know this specifically, but did put it all in here. But if you're charging, you have to get a permit. Even if it's bring your own, you don't have to have a permit, but you do have to have an officer.
Okay.
So there's different permitting. It goes through each scenario
Okay, so
on that
the
page.
point is if alcohol's involved, you have to have an officer.
Correct.
Okay.
Tara, page 2. Down at the bottom, number 2, to ensure that Sunset Beach Community Center is clean on the date received, an authorized person initial the request via a walkthrough. So if I'm renting, I will have to meet at the community center with a town employee?
So we have
To
the
go through?
checklist at the end. So
Yeah.
you'll walk through and sign off that you did everything on that checklist on your own. You'll
Okay.
leave it on the table
All right,
or on the counter or wherever. And then when the next day or that same day, possibly even, the town staff member would come in and go through and make sure you did that. And at the bottom of it, that's how you get your deposit back.
yes.
And so it's right here where you have your name on it. There's a checklist for you, a checklist for the staff person, and then the staff person signs off and says, yes, they can have their deposit back.
Okay. All right.
One other question is it says that the renter has to be paid in full 10 days in advance. Do we have the flexibility if the place is not rented and somebody comes up within that 10 days?
It's-
depending on the circumstances, we
That's
can
more
handle that.
of if you rented it like 2 months ago, we want your money 10 days before the event. You can still rent it if it's available. It's just that we're not going to
Okay.
wait and have you pay that day because
More in like weddings and things like that when they got it pre-scheduled. They just need to
Right.
pay 10
Okay.
days.
so it could be a year out. You just have to do the deposit and then pay 10 days before.
That gives us time to rent it out
Okay.
if they cancel.
And most of these things too, if there's flexibility in most of it outside of like the requirements that we have that can go through the town administrator. People can make requests for flexibility in different things like the 10 days. It could be 5 days if there's some major
Just
reason
basic
for it.
guidelines. All this is that y'all read over all weekend. So what's y'all's pleasure? You want to rent this thing or what?
What other questions?
Well, I don't want to.
Yes. I get it.
Screw people to the ground.
5, where it talks about weapons.
Yes, exactly my question. Go ahead.
So a question for the chief, I guess. for concealed carry, that's permitted?
Unless
That's-
there's a sign on the door. I mean, we can take that out if you don't want any concealed carry.
Well, it says that we're not allowing weapons, but we're allowing concealed carry.
If they have a permit.
Well, yeah. But is that something
up
that's
to the police
required,
chief.
or is that,
Is that our choice?
You can say no, like we can put a sign on the door saying no concealed. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we can just take
Well,
that
if
off.
there's alcohol involved, that knocks it out there.
Right.
Yeah, so that ought to be changed.
Yeah. We
So
can
that-
take that
Yeah,
off.
can we just say
Since it
weapons?
is a town building.
We just say weapons not allowed in the premises except those carried by police, period.
right? Exactly.
That, I would,
I think that's wise.
everybody agrees. See where that is, Tara?
Page
Yeah.
5, number 10.
10. Yeah. So we'll just take that off.
Tara, I have one more. Under decorating guidelines, that's page 7. The 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet there says, use of the facility for personal gain or money-making projects is prohibited. To me, that's not anything to do with decorating. We probably should move that to the rules. It says, under decorate, it says decorating guidelines on page 7, use of facility for personal gain or money-making projects is prohibited. I would probably move that back to the rules page, which is page 5. Now on page 8, during event, there's no ice making machine, but I think,
We're changing that. It's
Yeah.
just there is no
Okay.
ice machine right now.
okay,
We're going to put an ice machine in.
yeah.
We are going
Yeah.
to.
Now, just one other. On page 10, it talks about, that's in a checklist, it says event signs removed if applicable. Event signs removed if applicable. But if you go back to page 7, it says no yard signs are allowed. I don't know, do they go together, not go together? It says no yard signs are allowed, then it said on the checklist, event signs. I'm not sure what your definition of event signs are, but.
I mean, you can have, it just depends. So you
So if
can
I'm
have
having-
signs tied up. It just says no yard signs. I mean, we can allow yard signs. That's just something I've seen.
Our
So
Grace
some
family
people
reunion,
tie-
you put a sign
you
out,
put a
you
sign
take it
up there,
down
just
when
take
it's
it down.
over.
Okay,
There you go.
so, fine. So where it says no yard signs are allowed, maybe that's,
You want to allow yard
shouldn't be
signs?
there on page 7, because you could put up a sign and take it down when you're done. Or my family reunion. That's good.
I'd like to make a motion. You finished?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
I move that we approve the application and the fee schedule
As amended.
As amended.
as amended, yes. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second?
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, Chad. We're gonna do these two together, please. Schedule
Yes, sir.
a public hearing for annexation
Yes, sir.
and schedule a public hearing for rezoning. Go ahead. and
Yes,
discuss
sir.
both of those,
Thank you,
please.
Mr. Mayor Board. I'm here tonight to schedule 2 public hearings for you on November 14th. The first one is a petition for annexation of town property from Brunswick County jurisdiction to the town jurisdiction, and then follow up with that with the rezoning of that property. This is the property out behind Fire Station Number 2. Currently, the 1.56 acres in front of it is owned by us. And is in our jurisdiction. The back 4 acres of that is also owned by us, but also in the jurisdiction of Brunswick County and zoned in Brunswick County. It's also important to understand that we need to annex the property first before we can rezone it. And I'm just here to schedule those 2 public hearings for November 14th.
Any member of council have any problems there? Questions?
Nope.
Not, do I have a motion on both of these issues for the annexation and the rezoning?
I move that we schedule the public hearings for both of these items for November 14th.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank
I
you.
will note that if you will pay attention to your next, I'll try to have these out to you early, but there will be a little bit of changes, especially dates, going into your staff reports for the annexation and the rezoning. So just pay attention to that. Might have some more detail, some more maps as well. I don't remember if I'm waiting on Chris Stanley to update the site plan, but there was a parcel number error that I gave to the planning board that was pointed out to me at a later date that I had to clarify with Coastal Geometrics with the annexation map. So
Thanks, sir.
thank you.
Cheers. Next, will be scheduled a special meeting for our beach report. And also on this, we will be scheduling a closed session in regard to NCGS 143, 318, 11A6. And also accepting final proposal and purchase of our fire truck. Does anyone have any questions in regard to this?
Like to make a motion?
Yeah.
Mayor, we're looking to
Change
do this one at
13th.
13th at 9
12.
a.m.
Oh, the 13th.
Friday the
13th.
13th, 9 a.m.
9 to 12. So just include that in your motion, please.
Yes, sir.
13th, I won't be able to make, but that's fine. I've already got an appointment.
Change it with y'all.
Ken, what do we need for a quorum?
4.
County.
I think you'll be here.
The 4 of us?
No, we can do that.
Right.
Okay.
We can do that then.
Aye.
We don't.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay,
Make a
I
motion.
move we schedule a special meeting on October 13th, 23 at 9 a.m. for the summer beach report, fire engine report, and what else?
Closed session.
Closed session. That's it, closed session. And that closed session will be at 9 a.m., correct?
Correct. All right. Do I have a second? Second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we'll be going down to the 2024 annual calendar, council, planning board, and all that. I know everybody's had a chance to look over that. So is there any changes that y'all see that we need to do now? Everything looked good at this moment. I know things can change with scheduling and stuff, but as of right now,
I've changed
this
my
year
travel.
ahead of time.
I've changed my travel time.
Yeah. Does everything look pretty good to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up, speed measuring signs. Chief Claymore, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. In your packet, see the proposal, which came about at the request of a resident who brought some concerns with the number of vehicles that are speeding over the bridge and across the causeway. That, coupled with pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, had asked if there was a way that we could install a speed measuring sign that would show the speed of passing vehicles on the bridge itself. I met with NCDOT to find out if that was a possibility, and that was a hard and fast no, that could not be on the bridge itself. I then asked about the causeway. What about either side of that bridge? And in talking with the state, they said yes, that is a possibility with some caveats. Easiest way to do it would be to make it so the sign is not permanent if it were to be installed, which involves Public Works or someone installing sort of an underground tube, if you will, that would be flush mounted with the earth. And the pole for this device would stick down into that pole or into that tube, and it could be removed so that it would not be a permanent sign. the pole that would go in there would be just their regular aluminum poles that are breakaway if somebody would strike it. There's a company called Radar Sign that offers a product that we could attach to this pole that is portable enough to be moved by 1 or 2 people. One person could move what is the TC400, which is not in the packet, but it's basically a variation of what is in your packet, the TC600, which is just the sign that says your speed. The 600 offers a solar panel option, which is more bulky, heavier, and is available, would be able to be moved by 2 people. Some of the pros of having that device on site in the causeway would be to slow traffic down. They're proven that anywhere they're put, people see that they're going above the posted speed limit. Other people around them see they're going above the posted speed limit, and they usually slow down. The solar option would be something that we keep out there much longer. As long as we had bright sunny weather like we see here in Sunset Beach, it should charge and keep us there at least from Memorial Day to Labor Day, which NCDOT said that would be considered temporary if we kept it there. Some of the cons of having that sign is similar to a marked patrol vehicle, that when it's not there, people will continue on their way and maybe not slow down or adhere to the 35 mile an hour speed limit across the causeway. The small shoulder there would make it difficult to put it. NCDOT requires 6 feet from the paved portion of the road. So we may be able to only get it on the side going toward the island, and we may not be able to get it coming back. If these signs they would have to be portable if they're needed in other areas of town or requested in other areas of town, and we pulled them from the causeway, their purpose behind them, putting them there, would be eliminated. My recommendation, as it says in the packet, that I believe these would slow traffic, but I also think that we owe it to all parts of town to slow traffic as best we can. I think that if we put these on the causeway to only slow traffic in that area of town, it's a disservice to the other residents who call into us on occasion, I shouldn't say on occasion, on a regular basis, for speeding complaints in their neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods. In particular, with the closing of the bridge, the complaints are coming in daily from all around outside of the detoured areas where people know that they can get around. Looking at the amount of vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic, traffic-related incidents in that area that would warrant something above and beyond typical patrols, it's not there. The stats don't support it. The traffic volume to and from the island, as you know, is seasonal, as well as the pedestrian traffic. We've been very fortunate not to have any major incidents or traffic crashes on the bridge or causeway in quite some time. We want to keep it that way. I don't feel that putting this on the causeway only is warranted. I think if we're going to do something of this nature, it would only be fair to do it in other areas of the town. We receive more complaints of speeding in residential areas than we do over the bridge or the causeway. If you have any questions regarding this, I'm very happy to answer those at this time.
What other areas? What other areas have traffic patterns that would merit and benefit from this type of sign, besides Canal, Main Street, and North Shore?
Sure. Definitely with the road closure, we're seeing complaints on Shoreline Drive and Park Road. Clubhouse Road, as you know, there's one of our variable message signs is there, but we only have power to keep that running in one direction in one location. My intention is to leave that there probably for the duration of the project. It's going to be moved during sunset at sunset because we have uses for it elsewhere. But those right now, anywhere that we have people walking, Crooked Gully, areas in Sandpiper, areas in Oyster Bay, there's people that are complaining about speeding. The portable nature of this is nice, but it's not without, because of the solar option, it's not without challenge. that we'd have to have a sign that would be strong enough to hold it. If it's our sign, it wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't have any sort of agreements that would be had to be had with NCDOT as we do for the causeway. And again, if we purchase some for the causeway with the intention of moving them around as needed, when they are removed from the causeway, then it defeats the purpose of what this resident is asking for, to say, let's slow people down on the bridge. But we can't keep it there permanently. NCDOT says no. We would need an encroachment agreement in order to put something there. And he said the easiest way to do it is just to make it temporary. That's what other towns have done. And you see the packet too. The packet shows the cost of this device with the solar option is roughly, if I remember correctly, around $5,000 for one. Mm-hmm. And so if we were to just install one on the bridge, or if we had enough room to do it on the outbound side, we're looking at $10,000 of money that's not in my budget this year.
Chief,
Yes,
we
sir.
currently have two portable
We do.
signs
We do.
that we move around.
Mhm.
Do you feel that covers the town pretty well? Or are you looking to order maybe another one in 2 years or another? Does that do the job in this town, do you think? You can't say yes on that.
I know. I think we could benefit from more. As I mentioned, when they're there, they work great. It's similar to putting a marked police car on your roadway. People will slow down when they see it, but the second it's gone, then the obligation, it's on them to adhere to the speed limit. The TC400, which is just the pole mounted, but it has to be removed to charge the batteries. Those are much easier to use. I have some familiarity with that device. That is something that you'll probably see at some point as a budget request. This one with the solar option would enable us to keep it in one location if that was what we choose to do for the entire season, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And we could do that without entering into an agreement with NCDOT. The only time that we would have to move it would be at the end of the season, or in the event of gusts expected 80 miles an hour or better, just to protect our investment.
What's the pleasure, council? Y'all want to entertain this, or y'all want to let it lie?
So I think that, it comes down to kind of just enforcement in general, and I know there's a lot more traffic on that road because of the bridge. And if people are speeding, I think, some more tickets and violations in that would solve the same. And if people were aware that if they're speeding on that road, there's a good chance they'll be ticketed, that would slow them down just as well. We already have a law in place for this.
It's a spot where our officers routinely sit watching traffic in both directions. I think it's well known that we do that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I want to do everything that I can to keep our residents, our pedestrians safe. But again, first thing I do is go to stats, and what do the stats show? And as I mentioned, we've been very fortunate not to have an incident there.
So that being said, I support the chief's recommendation to not move forward with this.
Could this be something you'd look at more carefully for budget time, for next year's budget?
I think the TC400, the smaller sign, so that it can be utilized throughout town. I think it's only fair to our residents to have something that's a little easier transported, so that we can put it basically on demand where somebody would need it.
Perhaps more than just one.
Correct. Yeah, and I know the company offers specials around budget time where you can get two for almost the
Bank that
price
in
of
your
one.
budget. You heard them say that.
Yes, sir.
Move forward. Disposition of directives, November 14th, 2023,
Wait,
other than our public hearing.
you got Twin Lakes.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
We don't
That's why I
have
got
to
that
do a-
little
We
notation.
don't have to do a motion.
You got the little deal on Twin Lakes.
Mm.
Go ahead, you got this information about the Twin Lakes that you
Thanks.
popped me with.
As you all are aware, we have a contractor that takes care of all of our ponds and all of our lakes. Twin Lakes is also in that rotation list. For some reason this year, this water plant has become very evasive and needs to be eradicated from the East Lake. As with everything, the quicker you want it done, the more money you throw at it, it'll get done quicker. So I asked our contractor to give us a quote. Currently, we are paying him $18,480 for the treatment that he's doing in the East Lake now to eradicate this water hyacinth and to take care of the algae and the shoreline weeds. That will increase to $28,200. And I'm recommending that you all give me the authority to do this. With what we pay him for the other 10 ponds and lakes, plus this amount, it puts it over my $30,000 limit, is the reason I'm bringing it to you all.
Is there an expectation if he does the good? Is there an expectation if he does the eradication this year comprehensively that we won't have the same degree of a problem next year?
He can't guarantee that because of the depth of the East Lake. It's going to grow a lot more than the West Lake is because it's only 2.5 to 3 foot deep. But this will definitely make a lot of difference in that East Lake.
Well, we made a commitment when we accepted and we bought the lakes that we would maintain them, take care of them. So I think we ought to do this.
We didn't buy them, did we? Didn't they give them to
Well,
us?
Well, they were donated.
They were donated, and there's going to be a cost to go with it. That was clear at the time the donation was made.
Is this general fund?
I'm sorry?
Is this general fund?
Yes.
So it's going from 18,000 to 28,000. Is that what?
It's a little less than 10,000.
It's a pleasure, council.
I make a motion that we approve the additional payment for maintaining the East Lake.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Maybe that accommodations tax thing y'all checking on is gonna make this money up, because I don't want to see our taxpayers keep paying and paying and paying for something we've inherited. It's a ongoing problem and always has been. Next up, disposition of directives. Anyone got anything? Our public hearings will be on the 14th. Our special meeting will be on the 13th. Anything else?
Nope.
13.
Nothing.
All right. Moving on, public comments. Anyone have any general public comments? Go ahead, Ms. Mary.
Mary Hughes, 513 Lakeshore Drive. I do live on the West Lake. My backyard view is that beautiful 13th hole of Oyster Bay Golf Course. I'm here today because I am concerned about the health of both the lakes, not just the East Lake, which has been a problem for a while. But I wanted to make sure that I brought to your attention that the West Lake has been growing a lot of those pond weeds in the past 2 months. I've lived there 11 years and have never seen that. Right now, they're overtaking the West Lake. So I know you're doing funding for the East Lake, and that's admirable, but you need to consider both lakes because this is a new phenomenon this year. And it really is, I actually saw 2 alligators, 2 different days, swim around those pond weeds. They're not even going through them. So I'm concerned, and I would just request that you do 2 things. 1, investigate why all of a sudden the West Lake is starting to look like the East Lake. And 2, provide some funding to take care of it, or you'll have just as big of a problem there as you have on the other side. So that's it.
Mayor, I'm sorry. The
Thank
West
you.
Lake is already in rotation.
Can you tell me what you mean by rotation? Because it's never been there. Those pond weeds have never been there. And why are they there now?
It's on the schedule with the other 10 ponds and lakes that we have inside town limits that he's already taken care of. This is just an additional treatment for the one East Lake that has the water plant in it.
I guess I've never seen any treatment being done to the West Lake. First of all, there's never been an issue on the West Lake, and now there is. So while he's doing the other 10 ponds, I'm asking for you to take a look at why is it different and what's happening on the West Lake, because it's starting to resemble the East Lake pretty fast. So
He's treating the West Lake currently.
he's currently treating it.
Hmm.
Okay, not being an environmentalist, I have no idea what that means by treating the lake. I will just tell you, the past few months, it's growing. I don't know what they would be doing to stop the growth, but it is growing. So I just am, have concern that whatever he's doing is, I don't know how long it takes to be effective, but the past 2 months, I see just continued growth of those pond weeds, not any kind of stabilization even. So, but that's,
Hopefully with him treatment now, hopefully in a couple of months, you'll definitely see something. If not,
I hope so.
thank you, Ms. Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does any member of council have anything else? Any more
No other
comment?
public
Go ahead.
comments.
One more public comment? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Candy Fogel, and I'm short.
You're good.
And I live at 509 Lakeshore Drive, also on the West Lake. Several of us in attendance tonight also attended the Environmental Resource Committee meeting, which was recently held here in the council chambers. We again expressed our concerns about the conditions of the lake, what was being done to address that going forward. And I think several of us were very disappointed that the ERC members really did not know what the plan was as far as treating the lakes, what was being done currently as opposed to what was being done by the Twin Lakes Conservation Association in the past. Now, we were well informed by them about what the treatment plan was, how often it was going to be treated, and what we should expect in terms of results. But right now, those lakes are in worse shape than we have ever seen them. When I bought my property 10 years ago, I had a nice sandy beach in the back of my house. I haven't seen the sandy beach for a very long time. And one of my concerns, and we expressed this at the ERC meeting, was that the golf course continues to spray chemicals on their golf course grass, mow it and blow it into the lakes. I was quickly reminded by Chad that there is no ordinance against that in Sunset Beach, and it cannot be healthy for those lakes to be spraying chemically treated grass into either one of the lakes. So we would ask that you consider some type of ordinance prohibiting that type of behavior from the golf course. And I also want to point out, they're not the only ones that are doing that. I have seen landscape contractors do it, and it's not good for the health of the lake. So if you would consider passing some type of ordinance that would prohibit that, maybe some of that behavior would stop and the lakes would hopefully get into a healthier condition in the future. So I appreciate your time and your efforts in this. And Lisa, I know that Mary Ann DeMay has been actively in contact with you regarding these issues. We appreciate your help too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I do.
Anyone else? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Evening. Bill Millman, 415 Lakeshore.
You got to be up close to the mic so it gets
There you
on YouTube. Thank you.
I'm not as short.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want this to
Could you
become
start over, please?
Bill Millman, 415 Lakeshore.
There we go.
I don't want this to become the Twin Lakes evening, but it is. I live on the East Lake. I'm happy to hear that, but I support both of the two previous speakers. The lakes are in pretty bad shape, and I don't know. You were talking about the rotation. Is there some way, perhaps on our town website, that we could see what the rotation is, what's being done, something of that sort? There are a lot of people that are concerned, and it would be a way to alleviate that concern somewhat to see what's going on. I also had a broader question about the website, and I don't even know if this is the appropriate venue. But is it possible that there's something on the website that, in a very simplistic way, talks about the budget of Sunset Beach? What I'm talking about is something perhaps that would break it down in a very simple graphic manner, maybe a pie graph, which shows expenditures and revenues. Say the top 10 revenue streams, the top 10 expenditure streams. I know that I, as a citizen of Sunset Beach, would like to know what monies we're taking in and what monies are going out and where they're going. at least in broad strokes. I don't know if this is what something you would consider, but if you would, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Keep going. Ray Ragone, 501 Lakeshore Drive. We are on the West Lake. Did what's on the Twin Lakes Committee where we worried about both lakes. And you said something that really resonated. So once we figure out the rotation, I think, and maybe there was a lapse between the donation and what was previously happening, that could be causing some of this. But my big thing is what's the long-term agenda, right? So maybe we need to start thinking about the treatments is great, but what's the long-term fix? I think there's a flow issue there personally. It is shallow. Maybe there's a dredging thought process. We've seen how that works in the saltwater. So maybe thinking more long-term as a fix. This is a great Band-Aid and it's been working so long, but I think that maybe a big picture needs to be probably thought through a little better. That would be my suggestion. But we appreciate everything you're doing. I think just maybe seeing if there was a void in that rotation when the transaction took place. Because I know we run a pretty steady, I live there and we see I work from home, my wife works from home. We see the boats come in and out when they do the treatment and we haven't seen one in a while. So maybe there's a lapse would be my only thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Last call. All right, nothing else? Anyone else for council have anything?
No, sir.
Nope.
All right, someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I have a second.
Second.
Sure you ain't got anything else? That's good. All right, all in favor? Thank y'all.